Okay, let's start tutorials. Does anybody want to go up first?
I would like to go because I have a test tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
My point of confusion was how can I determine if the Alien Sedition Act of 1798 is a violation of freedom of speech? I know that sedition is the stirring up of rebellion against the government, and violation is something that prohibits you from doing something you did wrong. I also know that the law passed was a violation of Americans' right to freedom of speech, and that the Alien Sedition Act of 1798 was passed by the Federalist Congress to silence its critics. I also drew a cluster diagram
Jason, can you tell us what you're writing out there so we know what you're...
It's a cluster diagram of what I know about my point of confusion.
Can you read it out loud?
The Alien and Sedition Acts. I know that a citizen went from... This act caused citizens to now turn a citizen from 4 to now 15 years. So instead of 4 years for them to turn into a citizen, it now takes them 15 years. And they now target aliens, which are immigrants not yet citizens. And they also clamp down on freedom of speech on press. And they give President power to arrest disloyal aliens or order them out of the country during wartime. Now, do you guys have any questions?
What is your goal for this problem?
My goal for this problem is to find out if it's a yes or a no. It's a yes or no problem. How can I determine if the Alien and Sedition Act of 1789 is a violation of freedom of speech? I'm trying to find out as simple as yes or no.
Jason, going back to your initial question, what did Mr. Chacon want you to find out? What was his question?
Was the law that passed against sedition in 1798 a violation of Americans' right to freedom of speech? Explain why or why not.
Okay, so you need to find out if this is a violation, if this law or this act
Is a violation.
is a violation, yes or no, and you have to support your findings. Okay.
What type of chart would you make to determine the difference between the violation of freedom of speech and what is not the violation of freedom of speech?
Exactly what are you asking me?
What type of chart would you make to tell the difference between what is and isn't the violation of freedom of speech?
I would use a T-chart. Do you guys have any other questions?
Jason, where did you get this question from?
Oh, from the book?
Can you tell us the page?
Oh. I don't know the page. I know it's from, I guess, chapter 8, lesson 3. Oh no, the page is, sorry, 306, 307.
Jason, could you tell me what is a violation of freedom of speech?
The violation of freedom of speech, The violation of freedom of speech is saying that if you were to exactly say something about the government, like if you were a news article writer or press, they would arrest you. And if you were let's say, a normal person, you would be fined money or arrested also.
Okay, what would you have to do to have those charges pressed against you?
You would have to say something like that. You would have to say something that claims the government is doing something wrong, or saying something like, for example, if they were having a new law passed and you started saying things that about the people who agreed with them, and then start saying negative things to them, it would act as this act, which would be a violation to them, which then they would be fined or arrested. Any more questions?
So what is a violation?
Oh, a violation is something that prohibits you from doing something which you're doing wrong.
So what's a non-violation?
Something that you're doing right.
Okay, Jason, so thinking about that, is there something that, based on the diagram that you already drew, can we say maybe how they fit on the T-chart?
Yes.
Jason, can you read that to us while you're writing it?
Okay. Citizens from 4 years to becoming a citizen are now, it is now going to take them 15 years to become a citizen. This law now clamped down on freedom of speech for press, so they are not allowed to say whatever is on their mind or their own opinions. They have to say something that regulates to the law, which is not prohibited. And now the president has the power to, since aliens are immigrants who are not yet citizens, he has the power to arrest them or just take them back to their country where they came from. Do you guys have any more questions?
How is a law of violation from 4 to 15 years a violation?
Oh, it's not a violation from 4 to 15 years. What are you asking exactly? From the citizens?
Yeah.
No, it used to take them 4 years to become a citizen, but now it takes them 15 years to become a citizen.
But how is that a violation? A violation of the law?
Because it is taking away their rights. Their rights were to only have a short-term period in that country or state to become a citizen of that place. But now with that, it is raising them to where if they were people who used to move a lot, they wouldn't never be citizens. So that's causing something bad to them.
So you're saying the citizens are wasting more time having to wait?
Yes.
But is that a violation of their freedom of speech by making that law?
Yes, because citizens are allowed to vote, but the longer it takes, only the people who are already citizens may vote, and they might not have their opinion to speak on what they feel.
Jason, looking at your chart, do you think that there's any facts that you wrote down that can maybe determine why it's a violation of freedom of speech?
The main one that violates this is the freedom of the press, because that's not going to allow them to. It also causes them a down on their business, because they're writing on what is interesting, and they mostly write about politics, So the politics, if they can't write about them anymore, it's going to bring their business down and they won't be able to do anything else.
Do you think there's anything in the book that might be able to help you?
About the Alien and Sedition Acts or freedom of speech?
Finding something that is in violation of their freedom of speech, the citizens.
That is a violation? Can you repeat your question?
Is there anything in the book that might state what is taking the citizens' freedom of speech? How the Alien of Sedition Act is taken away from the citizens' freedom of speech?
Like, let's say an example.
Yeah.
On page 307, it says that a Vermont Congressman, Matthew Leon, was also locked up for saying that the president should send be to a madhouse. The voters re-elected Leon while he was in jail. The Democratic Republicans, led by Jefferson and Madison, searched for a new way to fight the aliens in the Sedition Act. That was an example as what they said to them. As a freedom, he had no freedom to say what he had felt as his own opinion. So he got taken to jail. He was took to jail.
So that's an example of all the violations?
Everything, yes.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so are you finding any that are not violations?
No.
Okay, so can you answer your question now?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident on what the answer is now.
So what is it?
The answer is that, yes, we can't. The Alien Sedition Act is a violation, showing by the T-chart that all of the information shown is in the violation side, and there is nothing that shows that it is a non-violation. So it clearly states that the Alien and Sedition Act is a violation of freedom of speech.
Okay, let's check for some further understanding. Anybody have any questions we can ask Jason?
Why is it not a non-violation?
It's a non-violation because all the information that was given and that I knew never came up to be a non-violation. It came up after, and it came up after the law was passed and showed what changes were shown and what violated those, and then how it showed how people violated those laws and how it violated freedom of speech.
So applying to today, what can be an example of violation of the freedom of speech?
A violation of freedom of speech would be if a person were to go to write an article and then go to a newspaper place or a publisher who would publish newspapers, and then they would not allow them to publish it because it would be against the government's law, so that would be against that violation.
What is your aha moment?
My aha moment was when I wrote down the violations and the non-violations in this T-chart, and which you could see that they are all all violations of this act of the freedom of speech. So this is my aha moment.
Okay, Jason, can we go through the process of how you got your answer?
So the process I did first was that I created a cluster diagram about the Alien and Sedition Acts, and second I created a T-chart which showed the violations and the non-violations of freedom of speech, and third I analyzed the T-chart to determine the answer, which tells us that the Alien and the Sedition Acts were a violation of freedom of speech.
And can you give us your 30-second wrap-up speech?
The concept I learned about my point of confusion is what is a violation of freedom of speech. The concept is important because it now helps me identify when freedom of speech is being violated, when my freedom of speech is being violated. And like I said before, if I want to write an article and I can't, and someone doesn't let me publish it because of what the government says, then that is a violation of freedom of speech.